Welcome. We are happy to be here, and my name is Jonathan Nerel. I direct the Interfaith Center for Sustainable Development based in Jerusalem, and I'm going to be moderating our session today. I'm pleased to introduce to my right Jennifer Larby, who's the head of policy at Christian Aid, and to my left, Jessica Boali, youth advocate at Tear Fund, and farther to the left, David Ngigi Mwenene from Kenya, who's a programs manager at Senesa. So I'd like to begin by asking our esteemed panelists, how do you see the role of faith communities in the current climate negotiations here at COP28? Maybe Jessica, would you like to start?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I will just go for it. I hope to live until I reach the age of 80 or even 90 would be good. I know that what we do now will affect the future of my children and grandchildren, if I am blessed to be a grandmother one day. Right now in Zambia, as young people, we are innovating, we are running businesses, we're excited about the future, but our economy and livelihoods to thrive, access to reliable energy is vital. But oil and gas are not the future for Africa. We need reliable energy, but we need it to be clean. We don't need more dirty and polluting fossil fuels that bring health problems and poverty and exacerbate extreme weather events and cycles of disaster. Scaling up renewable energy to replace all fossil fuels is crucial to create a fairer and safer future for us all. As a continent, Africa has the opportunity to leapfrog to renewable energy, but we need financial support, investment, and political will. The world can and will flourish when world leaders, including faith leaders, come together and collectively turn their backs on fossil fuels. People living at the sharp end of the climate crisis are coming up with incredible innovations. World leaders now need to match their ambition and commit to a full and funded phase-out of fossil fuels and to tripling renewable energy capacity globally by 2030. Faith leaders also have a key role to play. Church and faith-based organizations globally are already stepping in to support people who are bearing the brunt of the climate crisis. Faith leaders can also be part of solutions and innovations to mitigate and adapt. For example, they can offer up resources, land and space to provide training and education, strengthen social connections and resolve conflicts, bring hope in times of stress, raise awareness of risks, and advocate for change. The road to the flourishing world we all want to see is paved with hard work, accountability, and justice. We need collaboration on a global scale at all levels to innovate and hold governments to account on commitments and pledges made here in Dubai. As faith communities, we share common values and a common vision for humanity. Faith communities make up to 80% of the world population, so whether we choose to resist or respond to the climate crisis, we change the course of history. As people of faith, we need to wake up to our call to care for creation. We must compel our leaders to power progress and not poverty. Thank you.
Thank you. David, please.
From my humble beginnings of a rural village in Africa, faith has played a significant role in shaping my life, my values. I see faith in the climate discussions and in COP as the only way that we can bridge the growing gap and rift between the heart and the mind. It is always indicated in these negotiation rooms and around the COP that the science is clear. But you do not see the clarity of that science when it comes to implementation, and that is where faith comes in. The role of faith and faith communities is to introduce the ethical, moral, and value-based angle into the conversation, and to also enact that which has been put into theory. Because as people of faith, and which is bigger than religion, by the way, we are a people that begin from believing that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not going to be a train that is coming to run us down. We believe that as people of faith, we have a responsibility to offer the moral compass in these conversations, that beyond business as usual, we know that whatever we have has been bequeathed to us and entrusted to us by our Creator. It's His own handiwork. And borrowing from the words of Laudato Si, the metaphor, that the role of faith in this case would be to reduce the internal deserts, so that then the external deserts can also reduce significantly, because what we see on the outside is exactly a manifestation of what we have on the inside. After all, Jesus Christ, our greatest mentor in Christianity and really our role model, indicated that what is bad is what comes from the inside and not what goes from outside of the body and comes to the inside. As a young Catholic in Africa, I live the experiences of seeing my communities die. I live the experiences of seeing my children no longer know how a millipede looks like because biodiversity cannot withstand the pain that we have caused as human beings. But then I don't stop there. I believe as a faith person that this is going to change. The trajectory is changing. In any case, if human beings are this capable of destroying the planet, surely they are capable of restoring it.
Thank you. Jessica.
As a woman, as a Christian woman, I'm so pleased to be at a COP where faith has played such an important role. It's brought a refreshing and a profound feel to this COP. And I'm so pleased to be working with brothers and sisters of different faiths. And I think that faith leaders have shown real leadership at this COP. But with 3 business days left of COP, I must say where I'm sitting as a representative from civil society, representing countries on the front line of a climate crisis they didn't cause, I am running a little low on hope. Why? Because every day that passes of this COP, I'm left asking the question, where is the money? Where is the 100 billion? Where is the billions needed for the climate finance goal? And where are the billions for the loss and damage fund? Yes, we've got this new fund set up, but to bring it alive, we need finance flowing through. And it does sadden me to report that, once again, it looks like developed countries are failing to show leadership where it matters on the question of finance and on scale. And we look particularly at the global stock take, and we welcome language around phasing out fossil fuels. But again, we see language on the possibility of phasing out by 2050. And I must say, we can't have the language of possibilities. We need absolutely's. Developing countries are paying for this climate crisis with their lives and livelihoods, and they can't bank possibilities. They need rock-solid commitments. So my message to developed countries from the faith community is that we need more leadership, we need more finance, and we need more concrete timescales. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I'd now like to invite James Sternlicht, who's the CEO of Peace Department, to share with us.
Thank you, Jonathan. As someone who comes from the, quote-unquote global north, there's a lot. My role, in large part, is to listen, to hear what is needed. And as we look at the world today, there's a lot that is needed. We are facing desertification across the world. We are facing loss of agricultural productivity. We are facing migration crises. And all these things are tied to the damage that the global north has done, the extractive economic practices, the legacy of colonialism, all of these things. And unfortunately, the leadership from the political side has been largely absent. I've grown up understanding on some level that political leadership is a lagging indicator of where the people are. And so in this work of being someone who's intensely tied to climate science and seeing the world today as one that is very much in jeopardy, I think the Stockholm Resilience Center recently highlighted more than 14 evolutionary traps that we're walking into. We need to come together as not only nations, but as a species. And with people around the world following the faith, 6.5 billion people being members of one of the major religions, we have the opportunity to mobilize at scale if we use the networks of faith to do so. If 80% of the world's population gets on board with everyone doing a little bit, many hands will make light work. And my faith, while I come from the Jewish tradition, is tied to that of secular humanism and to the idea that faith without works is dead. Faith is our belief that if we do the good work, good things will happen. And so instead, I 100% would back up the calls for phasing out fossil fuels. I'd call for better policy, loss and damage funds. But I'd also call on the world's religions to step up and lead. Because when the religions lead, when the people who give us our morality, our values, our ethics, take charge and lead us into a brighter future, we can mobilize a vast number of people. And as many hands make light work, the leaders will follow when the people lead. Thank you.
Thank you, James. So I appreciate your highlighting the important role that religious institutions can play in curbing climate change. And you know, the religion and ecology movement began about 50 years ago, and it actually predates the UN climate process, but this is actually the first year that there's a faith pavilion that's in force with 70 sessions, 325 speakers, including a number of you here. And my question to you is, to all of you, is what needs to happen to get religious communities more on board in curbing climate change? And what in the work that you're involved in is helping to move the needle on this issue? Maybe we'll go back to you.
Thanks, Jonathan, for that question. I think when we look at, I think when I was speaking, I mentioned how 80% of communities are actually faith-based. And whatever decision that the 80% makes, I feel it could be for the better or it could be for the worse. So if faith communities actually are in the front lines of championing climate justice or actually pushing forward climate action, I feel it could really make a huge difference. And also that could just change the whole narrative. And I'm so glad that at this COP28, as faith, people of faith, different faiths, we've had an opportunity to actually be in one space, get to share where we're coming from and what we are doing. And this is a call to all faith, people of different faiths, that let's kind of take really advantage of this opportunity. Because I think we have a chance to change the narrative. We have the chance to change a whole lot of things, but also that still goes back to the world leaders. We may want to see things go a certain way, but if there is no political will from the world leaders, it will really amount to nothing. So I think this, going to all the community, the faith communities, I think we are doing much, but we can do more. And I hope that we don't get to give up in pushing this, because a whole lot of people are actually maybe looking up to us to see what we can push, what changes we can get to push forward. And I hope that a lot of us, when I was speaking, I'm talking about the complete, fair and funded phase out of fossil fuels. That is me as a faith person. And this is what I would like to see. And I know a whole lot of other, James, you just mentioned about that as well. And I know a whole lot of other faith people would actually want to see that. So whatever space we're taking in, if we continue to push for such things, I'm really hoping for a better outcome. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. David.
I love the way James quoted James 2:26 on faith without works is dead. The faith pavilion is historic. It has been a point of gathering. Now it needs to graduate and evolve into a place of departure. more than the number of sessions that have been held there. The most significant, I think, achievement from where I sit of the Faith Pavilion is that they have been able to bring people who would otherwise not associate with their faiths in these conversations, in the COP conferences, including ministers and high-level negotiators, into that Faith Pavilion to share their experiences from a perspective of their faith, which is like a tap on the shoulder to remind you, hey, even when you're negotiating the global goal on adaptation, you are still Christian, you are still Buddhist, you are still a Muslim, and so on and so forth. But now it needs to be a point of strategy where people of faith gather and then they go out, as Jesus missioned the 72 to go out and now engage in the conversations to influence them from the inside. It is a great start that should be institutionalized, and this could move progressively into one of the biggest things yet. Because what has been lacking over the very many years of COP is the lack of a place to reflect and remember who you are, even when you argue for your government or for your state, and you carry the selfish interests of others, yet perhaps outside, you're the most human person we know. This Faith Pavilion must also be a place to remind the negotiators who are often bashed that they are human beings, and we believe as people of faith, you cannot reduce or elevate man or woman to an action. They are more than that. They are totality of more than that. And our wake-up call to remind them we still have faith in you doing very well is very important for the faith communities and for the planet at large.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Thank you. I think that the Faith Pavilion, faith leaders, and the discussions around faith has brought a real level of moral clarity about why we are all here. We're all here because we want to save our planet, and by virtue, we want to save one another. And I think that narrative and that message has been so desperately needed in our conversations about the climate. They can get very technical and very political, but actually when we think about the reason why we are here, we're here to help and save one another. And I think that's been absolutely critical and wouldn't have been the case for this COP if we didn't have the leadership and the Faith Pavilion that we've had. What I would want to see is that moral clarity translated more into the political space. We need the leadership from the faith communities to drive political action. That is absolutely lacking in these final days of COP. And as I mentioned in my opening, we need that political action and we need that leadership when it comes to finance, when it comes to timescales. And I hope that the faith voice can continue to drive that political leadership as we come to the end of this COP.
Thank you.
So there's a few different pieces to, I think, what we need as we go forward. There is the need for political will. As someone who works in the sustainable development space, I have heard many times when I've gone to investors, to the bankers, to the donors, that when we're trying to build in places that are conflict regions, when we're trying to build in places where the climate crisis has already taken such a severe toll, that they think things are too unstable to build. They don't see people coming together. They say, why should I invest in what looks like a mess? And so this is where I think there is a huge opportunity for the faiths to get involved. There is an opportunity for community projects that bring people together. If you look at what Gurudev Ravi Shankar was sharing about water restoration projects, what happened in the Maharashtra district in India with 4,000 villages coming out to improve their watersheds, you can see economic uplift that is able to lead to investment. And the faiths have a unique opportunity in a unique place, because there are places in the world where there is not a grocery store in sight, where there's not internet connections in sight, where there's a church, there's a mosque, there's a synagogue, there's a temple. And these community hubs can form the basis of a grand distribution network for a mass mobilization across humanity. If we were able to empower these groups by creating the infrastructure for a dialectic between the people telling us what they need and the Global North being able to provide that in conversation rather than in a prescriptive manner, there is a massive opportunity for us to hear what needs to be done, to use technology then to deliver that which is needed to get the job, to give people the tools, and then build a better future together. But this will only come if we also bring into our practice as whatever faith, a regular, even weekly reminder within the sermons that we have, within the explanations, within connections to our Torah parshas as a Jew, that refocuses us on shifting away from the materialism of the world, shifting away from keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, and moving towards what must we do together. When we gather in community, when we come together, whether it's shul on Saturday or in church on Sunday, we can see that we are a community. So what are we doing after we get together and set our intentions? Are we going out and doing the work, or are we all having a snack and going home? I believe that we should be going out and doing the work. I believe that we should be getting out there and planting trees and teaching and showing the children that we care, because so many of the children today and so many of the youth that we work with have a feeling of despair that the adults have ruined everything for them and then are not cleaning up their mess. And it's hard to tell the kids to clean their room when your house is a mess, right? Like, it's impossible. So, with that, I believe that if we come together as a global community, set targets, and work together across religions without ego, because even with some of the work we've done in bringing people together as a sponsor of this pavilion, we've seen people trying to scoop each other on who gets the first announcement. If we can come together truly together and work in lockstep with each other and have a discussion and organize, we can tackle this. We can restore watersheds. We can fight desertification. We can finish the Great Green Wall across Africa to stop the spread of the Sahara. We can do all that. And if we do that, and then we go to the banks, and we go to the political leaders and say, we've done our part, where are you? That is a much more powerful message than waiting for them to make policy decisions, which they're stuck on their oil money. I mean, that's the truth of it. So let's lead them. Why are we waiting?
Okay, so I'd like to just pose one more question. There's been mention of how the younger generation has a sense of despair, and faith can provide hope. So if you could just leave us, each of you, with a 2-minute message about what do you find hopeful in the current state, especially from how faith communities are mobilizing for climate action and climate justice. If there's something in your organization or that you see in the world that can help us to have hope in this time.
Thank you. I think for me, first thing is when I look at how people will first run to churches, to mosques, to synagogues, when they're in trouble, it gives me hope. It shows that when people are feeling some sense of danger, they'll run to these places first. So I think to me, first, that just gives me hope that faith has so much power that everyone would think first things, that's where they would run to. When their homes are flooded, they would want to go to church first to go and get some help. They would want to go to the mosque to get some help. They want to go to the synagogue to get some help. So that is so powerful on its own. What gives me hope is, I come from Tear Fund, and with Tear Fund, there's a whole lot of activities that we do. I'm going to give one example, which is CCT, called the Church and Community Transformation. This is where, as Tear Fund, we have gone into different communities and we've seen how we can help to transform with the resources that they have within their communities. So I'm thinking solutions are there. I think it just needs a little push to actualize them. And that's just like we've been saying. James, you're mentioning of how maybe us faith leaders, we need to start and push the political leaders. I think even in the different communities you're coming from, solutions are there. They are there, but probably we need financial, climate finance to kickstart. We need the loss and damage to kickstart. We need serious political will to kickstart. So I think that gives me hope, knowing that faiths are the first faith communities or faith churches, mosques or synagogues are first places that people get to go to for help. So I think even just that picture can give us hope to actually continue to do more and just change a lot of narrative, because we understand the world. I come from a global south country. I come from Zambia. I've seen how people have been affected. Myself, I'm a person that has been and keeps on receiving the effects of climate change. So I understand how powerful faith could actually just change everything. But that needs a backup of the political leaders. Thank you.
At the Catholic Youth Network for Environmental Sustainability in Africa, what gives me hope is when the young people come together for what we call the formation and awareness creation. And some of them do not either know what climate change is, because we don't have that in our local dialects. And they also don't understand what they can do. They feel helpless. But then you demonstrate that their talents, their gifts, their skills are the most important tool that they can offer, and to be able to start where they are with what they have and do what they can. The other thing that gives me hope is when I come, for example, to the side event like we had yesterday and put names to environmental defenders, young people who decry the loss of language and culture, religion and spirituality because of loss and damage. And now this gives the dimension of non-economic loss and damage, which has been a conversation around faith. And that gives me hope that faith is still able to see around the corner, beyond what the text can see, beyond what data and the metrics show. There's a human face behind every suffering. Last thing is that I know that even though I have seen dark days, it has always been darkest before dawn, and the brightest dawn is yet to come because of the people of faith. That gives me a lot of hope.
Thank you. It gives me real hope that the God that created all of us has given us a mission to make this world better. And I'm just really proud to be amongst people that take that mission seriously. And as a Methodist, growing up and attending a Church of England school, I'm really proud that the Methodist Church and the Church of England, which has a huge global investment portfolio, is taking really bold steps to divest from the fossil fuel industry. It's been a very, very difficult conversation that my organisation at Christian Aid, who is supported by the Church of England and supported by the Methodist Church, have really, really driven progress and advocacy within those institutions, the Church of England and the Methodist Church, to take this bold step to divest from fossil fuels. So we hope to be able to support other denominations, Christian denominations, to take this bold step to turn away from the fossil fuel industry and move their investments further away from this industry. So we hope to be able to drive that progress and show that church denominations can show this leadership where it might be lacking in the political space.
What gives me hope on some level is that we're here. Last year, probably, I think back in July, it was Jonathan of last year, we started getting into discussion of how do we bring the faiths to COP? How do we get this pavilion? How do we include people in the conversation? And while for COP27, we weren't able to do that, we were able to bring together more than 50 major religious leaders across the world's religions to come up with 10 spiritual principles of climate repentance. And we were able to put pressure on the UNFCCC and on other organizations and say, hey, we're here, we're willing to sponsor this, let's go. And with that, we were able to see that, okay, when there's willingness, when there's pressure, we can move forward, we can be here. So this year, we are one of the larger pavilions, the faith pavilions are the larger pavilions at COP. We want to expand on that. We want to make sure the message is heard in churches, mosques, synagogues, temples of all kinds around the world, that we, the people, can come together and save this. We, the people, are going to lead. We, the people, as is our spiritual duty, are going to restore the beauty of God's creation. Because the question is not whether or not we can live without the planet, it's can we live with it? Can we find life in symbiosis with each other? Coexistence is a big word on bumper stickers and all that. But truly, can we coexist? And the fact that we can be here, united, showing a front to the political world of saying, hey, the faiths are getting it together, what about you? That is a powerful message, and that gives me hope.
Thank you, James. And thank you, Jennifer and Jessica and David, for sharing. Let us have hope. Let us enable the next generation to inherit a thriving, spiritually aware, and sustainable planet. Thank you so much.